there's no place like home. Welcome back, friends. I have just returned after my 2-month stint out of New York, my current home, and I'm so glad to be back. While I gave every effort to continue making videos while I was working out of state for 2 months, that's obviously a bit of a challenge. That doesn't matter now because we're gonna have a good day.
Today is going to be an amazing day.
We're gonna have a good day because I'm wearing my favorite movie and my favorite place, respectively The Witch and Margaritaville. That combo can't be beat. Though there may be some interesting juxtaposition between those two, I will admit that much. Anyways, we're back for the A24 series. This is our 6th week of videos for the A24 project, which means we're 18 films in, I guess? Pretty substantial. Anyways, we got a clean lineup this week. We have While We're Young, which I had previously seen, A Most Violent Year, which has been on my watch list for a long time, and Son of a Gun, which I was not familiar with. If I'm being totally honest with you guys, I am still a little foggy from all of the travel, but we're here to dig in to the A24 and talk about some killer movies.
I'll assign the rest of you killer positions.
First up, we've got A Most Violent Year, starring Oscar Isaac and Jessica Chastain. First of all, let's just say it right off the bat, what a pairing. Those two never hold back and give incredible, nuanced, flavorful, and challenging performances every time they show up on screen. I've never watched a film with either of them and been disappointed with their work, I don't think. Oscar Isaac's character, Abel, or Abel, owns this small oil business that he's working very hard to grow and to be a real player in the oil industry against his competitors. Now, this is an industry that it's very common for there to be some sort of immoral or illegitimate, even illegal practices in, but Abel's whole philosophy is that he should take the right or good path, or the most right possible. This makes things certainly a little more challenging for him as he's attempting to rise in an economy and a market that is kind of trademarked as having a lot of poor or underhanded business practices. Combine this with the serious crime that's going on in the city. While his oil is being stolen as it's distributed through trucks, his employees are being threatened and injured and even killed, and it creates for a very tense situation for Abel and his family. The people who want Abel to fail are not even restraining themselves from going after his family. So not only is there a threat to his business, his legacy, and his own personal ideals, but there's also a direct threat to his family. I'll be the first one to say that this sort of blurb on its own would not be the sort of film I would immediately gravitate to. For me, the real pull is Oscar and Jessica. However, as I started watching A Most Violent Year, I was immediately mesmerized. It was one where I had a really hard time identifying why I was so mesmerized at first. There's of course the fabulous acting, but the cinematography is also stunning. The color grade to this film is really interesting, and it has a very gritty quality about it all that makes it sort of easy to get into the feeling or the atmosphere of the film. This is a really non-romantic look at New York City in the 80s, which is cool because I think a lot of the time when we watch movies about New York, we get a sort of romanticized version, which is fun in its own right, but it's nice to have something different. This is also sort of a, I don't want to compare because they're two extremely different pieces, but there's something about the film that almost feels Sopranos-esque with the white-collar crime and the mafia involved. This drama, crime, thriller is so beautifully crafted that the tension at all times is intensely wire-tight. I felt myself anxious throughout just because the story is so well built and you get to know the characters in such a way that you do care about them. Abel is an immigrant, so as he's come to the US to build his business, there's this idea, once again, that we've seen in some of the previous A24 films of, is the American dream real and can it be achieved moralistically? It's such a nice change in pace to watch an upright guy fight for his future and fight for what he wants, grind to get the outcome that he feels he deserves, but understands that he has to work very hard for. At least that is true for a while. As the story unwinds, we watch that maybe there's some cracks in this morality that are maybe helping him find success more than he would if he was completely upright, completely moral. He and Jessica Chastain's character, Anna, are in this fight so squarely together. She is such a powerful presence on screen, and this is true of Jessica Chastain in anything I've ever seen. Anytime she's on screen, she captures my attention. She has a glow to her. She is so amazing and such a good performer that I find my eyes always drawn to her. She's always on. She's always got something going on under the surface. She knows these characters inside and out. I saw a video once of how she breaks down a script, and it's quite like a theater actor because she did train in the theater at Juilliard, from what I understand. She has such a depth of understanding to the people she's playing, and it shows up so beautifully on screen. This is the kind of actor that I want to see more of in the film and TV world because there is such a complete, full, well-rounded understanding of the piece and of the character. As this story escalates and we descend into more aggressive, violent, and terrifying crime, Abel has to fight in different ways to keep his employees safe and to keep his business afloat. It escalates to where we see him fighting back against these criminals who are coming after his oil and stealing what's his. I do want to note, there's nothing quite like Oscar Isaac chasing after someone on screen. We see him run a lot in this movie, kind of building up to these chase scenes later on, but he has this sort of iconic visual of running after criminals in a camel hair trench coat that's just stunning. I've never really seen anyone hold that kind of power in a chase scene. It's pretty incredible. I think the interesting thing about Abel is also that he has such a quiet ferocity to him. This is hugely in part to Oscar Isaac. And I think we get used to, especially in contemporary films, lauding performances that are big and bold and sometimes hysterical. I'm often quite more interested in performances that are more subtle, more withdrawn, or more held back. Suppressing an emotion is more interesting to me than letting them all fly all the time, because that's not how we exist as humans in the world, right? Like every time we're angry beyond belief, we don't shout, we don't scream, we don't cry. A lot of the time we have to keep a lid on our emotions, and it's really, really beautifully done in this film. Oscar and Jessica have the most insane chemistry. I know they've done other work together. I don't think I've seen their other films together. I think there's scenes from A Marriage, which is a Amazon Prime series. I'm really looking forward to watching that after seeing this film between the two of them. They don't only have this emotional chemistry on screen, they have a very physical chemistry too, which is impressive to watch, and it's magnetic, I would say. Altogether, I would strongly recommend watching this film if you like tense drama thrillers. I will say it has imagery of suicide, murder, violence, a lot of heavy material, but the performances are so well crafted, so fleshed out, and watching the story unravel of this really upright man and seeing where his cracks are, where he's willing to bend, what it takes for him to lose or give up his philosophy a little bit is fascinating. I don't want to give away too much, but the ending scene where there is a death on screen and then the action that follows it is so the encapsulation of the whole idea of the film. If you've seen this movie, let's chat about that in the comments, because I don't want to give away too much, but the final death followed by Oscar Isaac's next move, it's wrenching to watch.
We're looking at sea otters.
6 of them here.
Next up, we have a crime movie called Son of a Gun, starring Ewan McGregor and Brendan Thwaites. We start the film off with Brendan Thwaites' character, JR, as he's in prison for a 6-month sentence. You can tell he's not a super tough kid. He's not probably been involved in a lot of crime before. He maybe just got a little bit off track. So he's new to the prison experience, and he's definitely not really ready for what waits for him. Right off the bat, all the bad things you would associate with prison start unfolding in front of JR. Please be aware we are about to talk about some tough topics involving sexual assault. In a sort of stereotypical way, we watch as JR's cellmate, a smaller, sort of quiet guy, is taken advantage of by a group of men in the prison and is repeatedly assaulted. JR has a sort of happenstance by chance encounter with Brendan, played by Ewan McGregor, who is a sort of leader and more charismatic personality of the prison. JR's cellmate eventually can't take the abuse anymore and he commits suicide in his cell. Then afterwards, this group of men that was taking advantage of this boy sort of zero in on JR and decide he is their next target. Because of this sort of odd connection JR has made with Brendan and his crew take care of JR so he is not abused and sexually assaulted repeatedly like his friend was. This movie wastes no time. JR is released from prison fairly quickly, and Brendan has assigned him as sort of one of his new cronies. He's going to be doing his dirty work out of prison, and they create a sort of wild prison break plan, and they're going to get right back to work as the big time criminals that they are. Right off the bat, I'll be honest, this is a fairly stereotypical prison film. That is not to say it's bad, though. It's a pretty tight movie, and I was engaged throughout. I think, if anything, I would say that really strong acting and nice camera work and really just tight filmmaking kind of saved this movie from becoming just another boring crime movie. We watch as Ewan's character, Brendan, is given a huge task of stealing gold from a supplier, which is one of the biggest heists he's ever been a part of. This involves crazy planning, and JR gets a little bit distracted with a girl who he has a crush on, played by Alicia Vikander, who is one of my all-time favorite actors. We watch as JR and Brendan butt heads over JR's sort of fascination with Alicia's character, and he gets distracted away from the big plans of making money, getting out of town, and living this lavish lifestyle that the criminals are sort of invested in. This one is probably going to be a sort of short review. I enjoyed watching Son of a Gun. I think it has a little more flavor than it necessarily could have if directed differently. I think it's an entertaining watch. It's very simple, not the most nuance in the world, but sometimes that's what you need as a watcher. Sometimes you just need a fun, exciting film that's not going to make you think too hard. There are incredible fight scenes that are very realistic and well staged, a lot of good filming, pretty shots. I love this moment where we see Ewan McGregor hanging out the side of a window and shooting a gun behind him in a car chase. It's fabulous. Also, just getting to see Ewan McGregor, Alicia Vikander, and Brendan Thwaites all together on screen is pretty charming. I actually was working a job once and he came in and was a lovely man. I think we all know exactly kind of what type of guy he is. It's always enjoyable to watch him. Again, this is an enjoyable movie if you like crime films. It's not that there's nothing to say about it, there certainly is, but it's a pretty clear-cut crime action film. I enjoyed it, and if that's your genre, you'll probably like it too. Last up, we have While We're Young, starring Ben Stiller, Naomi Watts, Adam Driver, and Amanda Seyfried, killer cast, and directed by Noah Baumbach. This is classic sort of 2014 Noah Baumbach. Very rich in theme, has sort of oddball characters that are so endearing, that are enjoyable to watch, and an interesting take on the idea of aging, growing older, and pursuing your dreams. We follow Ben Stiller's character, Josh, as a middle-aged documentary filmmaker who's kind of at a standstill in his life. He thinks he's happy, and his wife Cornelia, played by Naomi Watts, are also sort of in the routine of life that they've gotten used to. Their friends around them are having kids and making big life changes. We find out that they've tried to have children and it didn't work out, so they've kind of settled into a pattern that they like. Josh is working on the same documentary that he's been working on for 8 years, and he's not really making that much progress. We find that he had a lot of promise when he was younger as a documentarian, and Cornelia's father is a very famous filmmaker. He and Ben Stiller's character Josh kind of butt heads, which is not the greatest thing for a father-in-law, as I'm sure we all know. But it's because that he had a lot of promise, and it's not believed that he has fulfilled it to his full potential. When Josh, by chance, or seemingly so, meets Jamie, played by Adam Driver, and Darby, played by Amanda Seyfried, he is totally taken by this free-spirited young couple who are seemingly interested in everything, experience so many things around them, and are tied to nothing at all. He has these complete rose-colored glasses with Jamie and Darby and starts to become sort of obsessed with them as a couple and wants to live in his youth again. Josh and Cornelia start to get involved with Jamie and Darby's bizarre and fun experiences that they do all the time. They do an ayahuasca trip, they go to block parties, try and do everything to keep themselves young. We realize that Josh is particularly battling his own ideas of aging and maybe sort of his mortality even, as he still thinks of himself as a young person. He seems to be sort of confused by this idea of time moving on and him not progressing as much as he wants, and he really pushes up against this idea and is kind of butting heads with life. This is an amazing picture of like 2014 New York hipsters. Adam Driver has always been a bizarre physical actor in only the best way. He uses his body so freely and somehow both uncomfortably and comfortably at the same time that it's very interesting to watch him walk around on screen and just behave naturally. The sort of cognitive dissonance is really interesting against Josh and Cornelia and Jamie and Darby. We see this idea of what it's like to be young and youthful and experience all these things while you're in your 20s, and then this sort of stereotypical idea of what it's like to live in your 40s or 50s, and how you might want to go back in time. Over time, we sort of realize that this idea of age and what you should be doing at different ages is really completely untrue. I believe it when people say age really is just a number. You can do sort of whatever you want at any point in life, but there's this picture of what it looks like to be in your 20s the right way. There's this sort of manufactured air of spontaneity and excitement and freewheeling travel and experiences from Jamie and Darby that really just aren't true. They're totally manufactured. Josh gets totally caught up in this picture that they've created, and eventually it almost brings him down to his knees. He feels completely lost. He doesn't know why Jamie is successful and he isn't. Through this sort of personal difficulty and fighting against himself, Josh has to come to terms with the fact that he is aging and they don't have to give up their dreams as a couple. Through this process, Josh kind of realizes that he doesn't have to accept things the way they are. He can make changes in his own life. He can still be the documentarian he wishes to be. He and Cornelia can still have children. They can live all these experiences still, that sometimes you're the only one holding yourself back. These ideas of limitations of age are not necessarily all true. As we watch this sort of manufactured quality of the young, free-spirited people crumbling, it brings back a sense of reality. Noah Baumbach has expertly created these pictures of real people and the way people really exist in life. A lot of times this sort of hipster image is totally unrealistic, and it's totally created just to look good or look a certain way. There's a really strange and beautiful charisma with all of our characters in this film. I think that's sort of emblematic of Noah Baumbach films. It makes me think of Frances Ha in a way, where you have unusual leads that are likable and strange, and they interact with people in the world in a way that's not typically seen as much on screen. It's not perfect, it's not super clean, it's not clear-cut and polished. I think that's one of the reasons Noah Baumbach films are so popular, because it shows that people don't have to be a stereotype to enjoy their lives and be real, and you don't have to follow a certain path. I feel similarly about Frances Ha, where it shows that you can get older and you can still accomplish things in life and you can still pursue different things. The idea that you have to have accomplished certain things by a certain age is totally untrue. I will also say this film starts a really nice conversation surrounding pregnancy, the choice to have kids or not, adoption, and all surrounding having children. This movie is funny, it's beautiful, it addresses stages of life in a really nice way, and it's kind of off the wall in a great way. We see Adam Driver coming straight off of Girls and playing a semi-similar character to Adam, and it's really just nice to see him in more kind of quirky characters at this time. It's just such a good place for him to sit in the film world, I think. He's capable of so much, and we've seen him from Kylo Ren to Marriage Story, just across the board. He can do anything, but this was sort of a golden age of quirky hipster characters that was really enjoyable. There's themes of manipulation, lying, acting your age, wanting something that is unrealistic. Across the board, this touches on a lot of beautiful experiences of living life and what life feels like as you progress through it. So I would recommend watching this film if you like sort of pseudo-comedy dramas that touch on a lot of different themes and just has really great, interesting charisma and acting in it. I really enjoyed While We're Young. This one I'd seen before, but it was really nice to retouch on it.
All right, friends, you know exactly what we're about to do here. First up, we have A Most Violent Year. I know I said it in my actual review, but I genuinely was mesmerized throughout the film. The acting, the cinematography, the direction, the coloring, everything about it was so lovely to me. It's going really strong. I was mesmerized. Next up, we have Son of a Gun. Like I said, this was an enjoyable and entertaining movie for me. I don't feel like it blew me away. I felt like it was a pretty general prison movie, but with good acting and good direction, it raised it up, so we're gonna put it right in the middle. And lastly, we have While We're Young. This is a very specifically dated movie. I really enjoy the film. I enjoy the Noah Baumbach quality of it all and the acting. It's really interesting, but I will say that I think it just somehow still sits in the middle. This is one of those things where I don't have a particularly strong reason for it. I just feel like it's gonna sit in that area for me. It's just kind of more of a feeling. But I really enjoyed all of these films this week, so take it all with a grain of salt.
All right, friends, thanks for bearing with me through this video again. I am still a little foggy from the last 2 months of travel, but that's a-okay. We're gonna be back again soon with another A24 video. And in an exciting turn of events, for the first time, one of my all-time favorite movies is on our weekly lineup. Ex Machina, which is a top 4 Letterboxd film for me, is on the docket next week, and I couldn't be more excited to rewatch it and chat about it. So tune in next week for more movies, and ciao, friends. Have a good week.